All right, you guys, we are on week 4, lesson 7. That means we have done 1 whole month of distance learning. I'm so proud of you guys. We're getting a lot more people turning stuff in, better grades. I saw a lot of you guys at office hours. Keep coming to those office hours. Everyone that comes to office hours gets good grades on the assignments. So just make sure that you are going to those. But yeah, 1 month. Nice job. All right. Today, our do now is, what does it mean when people say, I don't want to just survive, I want to thrive? The definition for thrive is to grow or develop, in case you didn't quite know what that word meant. So what does it mean when people say, I don't want to just survive, I want to thrive? I want you to go ahead and write that down on a separate piece of paper for your answer. And just go ahead and pause this video if you need a second to write that down. All right, hopefully you wrote that down. Awesome. And hopefully you're thinking about this idea of thriving in your life. Okay, so our article today on Common Lit is a little bit different than the typical article that we read because it's actually an interview transcript. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I go to the Common Lit article. But first I want you to know, who is Anne Frank? Anne Frank was a young Jewish girl who hid with her family in an attic in Amsterdam. She is one of the most famous people to have lived through the Holocaust because her diary was found and published. It became a book that millions of people all around the world read. So what exactly are you going to read? Like I said, you're going to read an interview that is typed out about Anne Frank. The person being interviewed is Miep Gies. Now, Miep Gies was someone who actually knew Anne Frank and was essential to helping her get her diary published. So that's kind of the basics of what we're going to be reading about. All right. First, I want you to look at some background knowledge just to familiarize yourself more with who exactly Anne Frank was, because you might not know. So during this time period, it was extremely dangerous for people to help Jews escape the Holocaust. So I want you to think as we watch this video, why might people such as Miep Gies risk their lives to help others? So underneath where you wrote your do now, you can write down this question so you have it as we watch the video. Why might people such as Miep Gies risk their lives to help others? And then we're going to watch this video, and I want you to answer that question as we watch.
Anne Frank was a Jewish girl who became famous for the diary she wrote during the Second World War. She was born in the German city of Frankfurt in 1929. She had a sister, Margot, who was 3 years older. Things were going badly in Germany. Unemployment was high and many people were poor. At the same time, Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party were gaining supporters by promising to solve the country's problems. The Nazis hated the Jews and blamed them for the problems. When the Nazis came to power in 1933, hostility to the Jews increased. Anne's parents, Otto and Edith, decided to flee to the Netherlands. They settled in Amsterdam, here on Merwedeplein. Anne soon felt at home. She went to school, learned Dutch, and made new friends. 6 years later, war broke out across Europe. In 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, and in 1940, the German army occupied the Netherlands. The Nazi occupiers made life increasingly difficult for Jews.
Jews have to wear a Jewish star. Jews have to hand in their bicycles. Jews are not allowed in the tram. Jews are not allowed to ride in cars. Jews must attend Jewish schools, and so on and so forth.
In the summer of 1942, after Anne's sister, Margot, was ordered to report for a so-called labor camp, the Frank family went into hiding behind Otto's business on the Prinsengracht. They were joined there later by the Van Pels family and Fritz Pfeffer. The 8 people in hiding were helped by loyal staff and friends of Otto's, Miep and Jan Gies, Johann Voskuil and his daughter Bep, Victor Kugler and Johannes Kleiman. Meanwhile, the Nazis had tightened their grip, organizing raids and arresting and deporting Jews to so-called labor camps. In reality, these were concentration and death camps. In her diary, Anne wrote about living in the hiding place, the war, and her thoughts and feelings.
I feel bad for lying in a warm bed, while my dearest friends are out there somewhere, thrown or fallen to the ground. And that only because they are Jews.
An appeal from the Dutch government in London inspired Anne to rework her diary entries into a book. Before she had finished, however, their hiding place was discovered, and all 8 were captured on the 4th of August 1944. They were deported to the concentration and death camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. Miep Gies and Bep Voskuil, 2 of the helpers, found the diaries Anne had left behind. Miep kept them in case Anne ever came back. But she didn't come back. In February 1945, Anne and Margot died of typhus in appalling conditions in the concentration camp Bergen-Belsen. Anne was 15. Of the 8 people, only Anne's father, Otto, survived the war. When he read Anne's diaries after the war, they made a deep impression. He discovered how much writing had meant to her.
No one who doesn't write can know how fine it is. And if I don't have the talent to write for newspapers or books, well then, I can always go on writing for myself.
Otto read how Anne had hoped to publish a book, so he carried out her wish. Anne's story about life in hiding and the war is read all over the world. Her diary has been translated into more than 70 languages. The hiding place is now a museum and welcomes more than 1 million visitors a year.
Okay, so basically to summarize that video, this was a time where the Nazis were discriminating against Jewish people, and Frank, who was a Jew, had to go into hiding. But she kept this diary that she wanted to turn into a book. She left her diary behind when she got sent to a concentration camp, and this person named Miep Gies actually saved her diary in hopes that she would come back. However, she did not come back, and so Miep Gies gave it to Anne's father, who survived, and he decided to publish it as a book. So make sure you answer this question: why might people such as Miep Gies risk their lives to help others? All right, so I want to talk a little bit about this idea of motivation because it's going to be important when you start reading the Common Lit article. So motivation is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. Motivation impacts our actions and decision-making. Motivations can reveal character, the qualities distinctive to an individual, so what makes you you. There are 3 different kinds of motivation I want to talk about. The first one is basic motivation, which means what motivates you to survive. Like you need water, so you get thirsty. That's a basic motivation. Maybe failure, peer pressure, curiosity, guilt, desire, health, things like you need food. That's all basic motivation. And then you want to talk about noble motivation. So noble motivation is like something you do out of love, loyalty, honor, maybe inequity, which is like if you feel like you're not being treated equal or someone else isn't being treated equal, that would be like a noble motivation you have. The next one is negative motivation, which is hatred, pride, jealousy, and perceived superiority. Negative motivation is something probably not so good. If you don't like someone, you want to do something bad to them, that would be out of a negative motivation. So there are 2 different ways that we can see motivation. So one is intrinsic motivation. This is like comes from within you, and it's something you do because you enjoy doing it or you enjoy the task itself. This would be something like a sense of achievement. Maybe you're curious, you have an interest in it, or you have a pride in that. So this is something that comes from within you. This is intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is the opposite. It's something that comes from outside of you. Someone else is pressuring you. Something else is making you want to do something or are motivated to do something. These would be things like money. Money is something in the world that we have to deal with. And maybe wanting money is something that would be an extrinsic motivation. Grades, maybe you want praise from other people, getting a good grade on an exam, or having a good career. These would all be extrinsic motivations. And that's because a motivation you do because you think something good is going to come out of it. So I want you to write down underneath where you wrote that last answer to the video, what is an intrinsic motivation you have and what is an extrinsic motivation you have. So what is something you do because it comes from within you, and what is something you do because maybe others are pressuring you to do it, or the world, the society is pressuring you to do that. So again, you can go back in this video and remember what intrinsic motivation is and what extrinsic motivation is before you write this down. So go ahead and pause, take a second, write it down. Sweet. Okay, so we're going to come to our Common Lit article now. Our annotation task for this Common Lit article is, as you read, annotate for details that reveal Geese's character and motives. So basically, you're looking for details that show you who Geese is as a person and why she did what she did. Why would she want to help Anne? What about her did that? So we're going to go to Common Lit. I have it pulled up right here. So I want to remind you about the read aloud tool. It's going to be probably important for this text more than any other text. So if you're reading this on your own, you would click this, press play.
Woman Who Helped Anne Frank Dies at 100 by Terry Schultz, National Public Radio, 2010. Miep Geese was the last survivor to help.
All right, and then you can pause it, stop it, hide, read aloud, any of that stuff, just to remind you. Okay, so I'm going to read this again for you. It says, Miep Geese was the last survivor to help Anne Frank's family hide out during the Holocaust. Geese was interviewed by NPR's Terry Schultz for her amazing act of bravery in 1998 and upon her death in 2010. NPR revisited that interview. Anne Frank was a German-born Jewish girl who hid with her family in an attic in Amsterdam during the Holocaust. She is one of the most famous victims of the Holocaust thanks to the discovery of her diary, which her father and Holocaust survivor Otto Frank published after the Holocaust. Today, Anne's diary is one of the most well-read works of literature in the world. So again, our annotation task. As you read, annotate for details that reveal Geese's character and motives. Okay, so I'm going to read this first section with you until we get to guided question 1, and I want you to write down anything that I write down. So if you have your Common Lit article pulled up, you can do it straight on the Common Lit article, or if you do your annotating on a separate piece of paper, just make sure you have that out. All right, the last survivor who helped Anne Frank and her family hide from the Nazis has died. Miep Geese was 100. After the Franks were discovered and deported is to force someone to leave a country, it was Geese who found and preserved is to keep something in its original state, Anne's diary. So now we're going to begin the interview transcript part. This is where this text can get a little complicated to read, because what this text originally was two people having a conversation, and somebody listened to that conversation, typed it out, and then published it on Common Lit. So typically you would hear these two people talking rather than read them talking. So I'm gonna just read it for you, and then we will, I'll show you exactly how that sounds. So here's the host of NPR, Deborah Amos, host. Back in 1998, NPR's special correspondent, Susan Stamberg, visited a woman in Amsterdam and asked her a simple question. Now we're gonna start the interview between the two people. So it says, Susan Stamberg, how do you say diary in Dutch? Mrs. Miep Geese, dagboek. Stamberg, dagboek. Oh, daybook. Miss Geese, yes, daybook. Stamberg, dag. Miss Geese, yes. Stamberg, book. Miss Geese, book. Stamberg, is a diary. Amos, that woman is Miep Geese. The diary she's referring to is Anne Frank's. Miep Geese helped Anne Frank hide with her family during World War II and saved Anne's diary after she and her family were captured by the Germans. Geese died yesterday at the age of 100. Terry Schultz has this remembrance. So again, how I just read that, it sounds super weird because it's supposed to be just heard out loud and you're only supposed to hear the words, not the names. But I'm just showing you that so that you can know exactly who is talking when. Okay, so we're looking for annotating for details that reveal Geese's character and motives. So this doesn't really show me like why she did what she did, but I'm going to highlight it just because it shows me exactly what she did. So it says, Miep Geese helped Anne Frank hide with her family during World War II and saved Anne's diary after she and her family were captured by the Germans. So this is a super important thing that Miep Geese did. And it shows me a little bit about her character, even though this doesn't actually tell me anything about her character. So I would say, and go ahead and write this down with me. Miepkes did not have to help Anne and her family, but did anyways. This shows me she is selfless. And the reason I think that she is selfless because of this is because she could have gotten caught for doing this, and it was against the law to help people in the Holocaust who were Jews, but she did it anyways. So she kind of thought beyond herself to do this. So go ahead and write this down. If you are on Common Lit, you can just highlight it and write it like I did. If you're writing on a piece of paper, just write it down on a piece of paper. All right, Terry Schultz. Miepke said she did not like being called a hero. Yet she risked her lives many times over to help Frank family during the 2 years they hid from the Nazis in a secret annex. And an annex is like an extension to a main building, built into the trading company office in Amsterdam, where she'd worked for Otto Frank almost a decade. Providing refuge to Jews, she noted later, carried a punishment of at least 6 months in a concentration camp. Still, the Austrian-born Dutch woman, knighted by the governments of Germany and the Netherlands, received a medal from Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum, always insisted she had done nothing extraordinary. So I want to stop here because there's a couple things I want to highlight. So it says, Miepke said she did not like being a hero. That's interesting, right? Because she did something really heroic, and she said, I don't really want to be called a hero. This shows me she was humble. She didn't want to brag about what she was doing. She said, I'm not really a hero, right? And then I also want to highlight where it says, providing refuge to Jews, she noted later, carried a punishment of at least 6 months in a concentration camp. And still she did it anyways, right? And she says, I didn't do anything extraordinary. So what I want to say about this... What I want to say about this is she could have gotten sent to a concentration. Remember, write this down with me. Herself for helping them. And did it anyways. And then it says she always insisted she'd done nothing extraordinary. She still thought this was something anyone would do. She's brave. Says Miss Miepkes, I myself, I'm just a very common person. I simply had no choice. I could foresee many, many sleepless nights and a life filled with regret if I would have refused to help the Franks. And this was not the kind of life I was looking for at all. So this kind of shows me the reason she did this is because she didn't want to feel this regret for not helping them. Says Schultz. Dies explained another motivation for emphasizing her modesty. She said, if people are allowed to think it takes remarkable qualities to act boldly on behalf of others, few will attempt it. Okay, so here's a big reason why she did what she did and why she didn't want to be seen as a hero. It says, she thinks that if you show common people doing something brave without calling them a hero, more people will want to be brave. Right? She's saying, like, if you keep showing these normal people doing normal things that are brave, then people are going to be like, I'm not a hero. I don't want to do that. Whereas if you just are like, she's a regular person and she did what she needed to do, then people are like, I'm a regular person. I could do what I need to do, right? Mipki says people should never think that you have to be a very special person to help those that need you. So she's saying you don't have to be this big special hero person just to help those around you. Okay, so I'm going to stop there because that's where we get to guiding question 1. So I made a lot of notes here, and I want to make sure that you are making these notes as well. And as you continue to read the rest of the transcript, that you're also making notes like this. Every time you see why she acted the way she did, what motivated her to do this, I want you to make a little note either on a separate piece of paper or on Common Lit itself. So I'm going to go back to my slides now. And I want to talk about something that Longo and I have seen people get wrong, and we've been giving lots of 1s on this, and these are your assessment questions. So after you answer your guiding questions, you're going to go to the assessment questions. I took a screenshot of what my screen looked like. Yours is probably going to have a little box here for you to type in, but I have the teacher version, so it doesn't let me see that. I want to remind you guys, when you have a short answer question on Common Lit, we expect you to write at least 3 sentences. Your first sentence should be your claim. So you want to answer the question. This question says, explain Geese's motivation for helping Jewish families during the war. So you would have a sentence starter. That would be, Geese's motivation for helping Jewish families during the war was, and then you answer that question. Then your second sentence needs to say, in the text it states, and then you need to have evidence from the text. So that's where you get a direct quote from the text, and then you cite the paragraph number in parentheses. What paragraph did you get that text from? Then the third sentence, this shows that, and you're going to have your reasoning there. So why does this evidence prove this claim? Why is it important? What does that show about Geese's character? So make sure every time you answer these, you have to put these 3 sentences and you have to have evidence. If you're not putting evidence, you're not getting a 4. So make sure you have all this. If you just put 1 sentence, you're probably getting a 1 or a 2. Okay? So make sure you do that. Last thing, class discussion. Answer this question and provide evidence. It says, can common or regular people be heroes? Cite examples from anything we've read in English class or from your own life. Then I want you to respond to at least 1 classmate. So this will be in Google Classroom under classwork. You will just answer this question and then respond to 1 person. This should not take you super long to do. It's probably going to take you under 5 minutes. Just answer it. Can regular people be heroes? Yes or no? And then I know this because you can talk about maybe Salva from A Long Walk to Water. Maybe you want to talk about Percy Jackson. He's not really a regular person though. And then maybe you want to talk about someone in your life. Maybe your mom or dad or someone in your life is a hero. All right, respond to 1 classmate and then you should be done. Okay, we have our office hours today at 1 o'clock. Make sure you're there. Everyone that's coming, we're doing the article with you. We are helping you through every single answer to make sure that you guys are all getting 4s. Everyone who's coming to office hours has been getting really good scores. People who aren't coming to office hours, some of you are doing well. Some of you are getting a little bit confused on your own. So make sure you're there, 1 o'clock. Link will be posted on Google Classroom. See you guys there. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.